listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references.
Welcome back to Something Cheeky, where we're discussing the movie Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
In this movie, Peter Parker tries to hide his secret identity as Spider-Man, crushes on the wrong girl, and always tries to do the right thing, even if it turns out to be the wrong thing.
Aww.
This is part 2 of our coverage of the John Watts-directed movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, starring Tom Holland. In part 1, Rosanna heard the movie synopsis and watched the trailer and made predictions. Now that we've both seen the movie, we're going to discuss the highs and lows and how bad Rosanna is at predictions.
Thank you.
How bad are you? All right, Rosanna, now that you've seen it, what do you think? Did you like it?
I thought this was a really good Spider-Man movie. I thought it was really well made. It was very entertaining, and I liked what they put in, and I also was okay with what they left out.
Oh, okay.
It was a really well-told story.
Good.
Also really funny.
Yeah. There was a lot of laughing in the theater I was in.
Yeah.
What was your favorite quote from this movie?
So I couldn't narrow it down to one quote. I picked 2.
Okay.
The first one I picked was Aaron Davis. Donald Glover as Aaron Davis. He's talking to the bad guys. They're arranging a deal where he's buying a gun. I really just need something to stick up somebody. I'm not trying to shoot them back in time. I thought that was so funny. It was just kind of like a throwaway sort of line, but man, it was funny. And then my real favorite quote is Peter Parker as Spider-Man. He's going into the bank ATM vestibule sort of area.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the robbers are wearing Avengers masks. And he says, "Wait a minute, you guys aren't the real Avengers? I can tell. Hulk gives it away." And I thought that was such a good line that says everything you need to know about this Spider-Man. I mean, he's funny and silly, but he's, like, there to work. He's just so great. Tom Holland did such a great job in this movie.
He really did.
Yeah.
I also liked just before he said that, when he was trying to find the coolest looking position to lean against the door. Before he said anything to alert them to his presence.
And also he says to the person with the Iron Man mask, "Tony Stark, what are you doing here? You're a billionaire."
Oh, yeah, it was a fun movie.
It really was.
So let's get into the action. The movie starts out in an interesting way, I thought. So the movie starts with a film by Peter Parker across the screen, and then we get his kind of video diary of him with Tony Stark and getting his new fancy Stark-made Spider-Man suit that does a ton of cool stuff. He jets off to go to the big airport fight that's from Captain America Civil War. And we have little bits of that too, which is pretty funny. Of him watching Ant-Man and all that. And then it cuts to Peter and Tony Stark in a cab when they've arrived back at his home to get dropped off. And they have a nice little conversation about how he's not really part of the Avengers yet. And he needs to just, stick around at home and do his Spider-Man thing.
Tony Stark says, "Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And don't do anything I would do. There's a very small area right there. Just be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man."
Yeah, it was pretty nice. And I think it gets Peter's hopes up, because then he's obsessively checking his phone for new missions and not getting them throughout the movie. And trying to get a hold of Tony, or leaving reports for Happy, who is played by Jon Favreau, which I was not expecting to have him this much in this movie. I thought it was just going to be a cameo when he first showed up, but he was there the whole time.
Yeah, he did have a big part.
Which is weird, because I'm used to him as a director now.
Right.
Showing up a little bit here and there, but not as a regular character. And then we get this flashback scene with Adrian Toomes, where we meet the character played by Michael Keaton. He is trying to do cleanup after the big Battle of New York 8 years ago, which is from... Which Avengers film is that from? It's not Age of Ultron. It's not the first Avengers. It's where they get the aliens that come in.
Are you sure it's not the first Avengers?
Maybe it is the first Avengers. You know, it just made a huge mess of New York, which is something so many superhero films don't talk about, is the aftermath of these giant battles that happen when they just destroy buildings.
Yeah, and this is not the first time the Marvel movies have addressed the aftermath of these fights.
This is also when we learn about the U.S. Department of Damage Control that has been created, which is basically a way for Tony Stark to clean up the city. But I think Adrian Toomes is right that, you know, he's making money off of this government contract for destruction that he helped cause. And that is pretty messed up.
I think that there could be arguments for both sides of that. He was part of the damage, but why was he there?
Yes.
He was saving the city from aliens in a way that only he and a very small group of people were able to. How many lives did they save by intervening?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same argument over and over and over again, and both sides have good points.
Yeah, I don't know why they couldn't just have specially trained people to do the... I mean, why can't they train Adrian Toomes' men to do this? They already have the contract.
I agree that his team should have been allowed to continue. That's fair. It shouldn't have just been taken away from them.
Yeah, even if it had been taken away, they had a contract. He should get paid anyhow.
It's true.
Isn't that how contracts work? That's why there's a contract?
I guess it depends on what the contract says.
I guess so. But it's tough for him because he has, you know, invested money to make this contract work. He's bought some new equipment. He's hired a whole crew. And it's just taken right out from under him. And I understand why he's so angry.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, basically being driven out of business. It seems to be a thinly veiled reference to the 1% in America and how it's very easy for them to profit off of all kinds of things and basically take that money from the working class.
Right.
Toomes is very angry about all this, as you'd expect. And they realize that they still have some of the, I'm not sure how to say it, the Chitauri technology, this alien technology, that they've already scavenged, that they haven't given back, and they decide to keep it and use it to create advanced weapons. So this is our origin story for Vulture. Then 8 years later, after all this, Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, is drafted into the Avengers, kind of, and goes back to school, since he can't be a grown-up Avenger quite yet. And before we get into the regular present-day action, I thought it was really interesting that we skipped the origin story of Peter getting bitten by the spider and the whole Uncle Ben saga.
Yes.
I don't mind skipping that because we have seen this origin story twice now in the past 15 years from the other two Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping that no one ever again says, with great power comes great responsibility, because I've heard that enough.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be said again.
There's even a Weird Al Yankovic song about Spider-Man.
Really?
It's sling us a web, you're the Spider-Man. That from Piano Man. But there's one part where he says something about, with great power comes great responsibility, and don't worry if you missed it, because they'll sing it again and again and again.
That's funny.
That's great.
I was okay skipping the origin story. We all know it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
There's not really a new way to tell it.
No.
It's been done enough. And we get a reference to it later when his friend Ned has found out and he's asking all these questions about him.
Do you lay eggs? No!
Ned goes on and on about, would it hurt? I wonder if it would hurt so much, would it be worth it? And convinces himself it would be worth it for the pain of a single spider bite to become a Spider-Man.
And he's like, the spider's dead.
I love Ned. He's a lot of fun. He's such a good comic relief. Which is great because so is Peter. It's not just a straight man and the funny guy. They're both hilarious.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
He had some good lines, definitely.
He did, yeah. Peter's back at school. He's quit band. He quits the academic decathlon. He's quit God knows what else. So he can work with his Stark internship, which is basically just him being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Saving people from little things here and there and stopping grand theft bicycle. Getting his backpack stolen again and again and again. This is his 5th backpack that he needs
Yeah, that probably wasn't the brightest thing he ever did.
You'd think he'd put it somewhere where people wouldn't notice it.
Well, I love that later he webbed it to the wall
Yeah.
so it wouldn't get stolen. I mean, he finally realized.
He could have done that to somewhere no one would have even seen it in the first place, like the top of a light pole, where no one's going to look up and notice it.
Or the top of the building where he was going anyway.
Yeah, that could have worked too.
Yeah.
He's a smart kid. You think he would have picked it up sooner than 5 backpacks later.
Being smart and having common sense are not always the same thing.
That is an excellent point.
Sometimes it's the fact that you don't have enough experience. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You have to live through some things before you can learn.
Yeah. Happy Hogan, John Favreau, is basically Peter's handler. He's very hands-off, which I think makes sense considering he seems to have a lot of different duties for Tony Stark.
Yes, he does.
As his employee. He does a lot of stuff. I'm surprised that he's also supposed to keep tabs on Peter.
Yeah.
So then, like from your quote, Peter sees the ATM robbery and goes to stop it. And it turns out it's the guys from Toombs' crew, and they have this really advanced weapon that manages to hold him in midair and throw him around, which is pretty handy. However, that seems like an excessive weapon to take to an ATM robbery.
I wonder if they even have any regular weapons or if everything they use is alien technology. Like, well, we might as well use it. This is what we have. I did kind of like that weapon, though. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Is that the same weapon they used to cut the ATM open, or was that separate? I mean, they seem to do different things, but I can't remember if there were two separate weapons.
I don't know. I missed whether it was the same one or not.
They have a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And also, we see, one and a half, one failed, and one regular robbery of more of these power cores, the alien technology.
Mm-hmm.
But where have they gotten all the stuff in the intervening 8 years?
I think they steal it from the cleanups. That's kind of what I figured.
Have these cleanups been happening for all these years? They're still going on?
Have you ever been in a town with construction? Doesn't it seem like it just goes on and on?
That's true.
And I don't think maybe it's just New York or just downtown New York. I think maybe, I don't know. I don't know where all of it's coming from.
Peter manages to stop the robbery, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah, the weapon that they're using ends up cutting through and just ruining the business, the sandwich shop that's across the street that he goes to when he knows the owner. And so this is our first glimpse of Peter trying to do the right thing and making it worse. Making a situation far worse than it had been.
Yeah.
Which it's sad because his intent is so good.
He's just trying to help. There's nothing selfish about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wanted the recognition, he wouldn't be wearing a mask. It's important for him to use his ability to do good things. And he just doesn't have a handle on him yet. It's sort of like when a baby starts to learn to walk and they keep falling down.
Yeah.
It just takes a little bit to get your bearings and figure out exactly how it's supposed to work. He's like a baby spider. He doesn't know how all 8 of his legs work yet.
I will say I loved, and I wasn't spoiled by the trailer for this scene like you were, because I didn't see this part of the very first trailer, or if I did, it was so long ago I didn't remember. But Peter comes home, and he's trying not to wake Aunt May or let her know that he's there. So he's comes in, opens the window with his foot, crawls into his room, crawls along the ceiling, closes the door, drops down, turns around, and there's Ned sitting on the bed watching this whole thing with his mouth hanging open.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I loved it because I did not expect that when I saw it.
No!
It was a complete surprise, and it made me laugh so hard. And then begins like 20 minutes of the movie of just Ned asking random questions all over the place about all the things that Peter can do.
I mean, you can't blame this guy.
No.
This is unusual, and you just want to know everything.
At one point, Peter and Ned are talking during this long barrage of questions, and they're in PE class at school, and we hear Liz, the girl that Peter has a crush on, and it seems like maybe Ned does too.
Yes.
Says something about how she's crushing on Spider-Man, because they've all heard about him. Ned says something really loudly and catches everyone's attention, and then tells everyone that Peter knows Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Which is terrible, because that is not what Peter wants at all, since he's trying to keep this all
Right.
quiet. Then, of course, Flash, the bully, which I believe he's also in the comics as basically Peter's bully.
I think that's true.
He's not your average bully.
No, I think he's a jock in the comics.
Okay.
But they made him smart in the movie because he's competing with Peter intellectually in the movie. But I don't think that's the case in the comics.
I mean, the high school it's a school of science and technology, so you'd expect all the kids to have a lot going on mentally.
Right. It's a school for smart kids. You could just say that.
Better than a school for mutants.
No. School for mutants is the best kind of school.
And the most dangerous kind of school. I would not want to be around a bunch of mutants learning how to use their powers. That sounds terrible.
Wow, Nikki. That's harsh.
Is that racist against mutants?
Yeah, you're very intolerant, aren't you?
I'm fine with them having powers. I just don't want to be there when they're learning.
Oh, thank you for letting us have the powers we were born with, Nikki. How tolerant of you.
You would want to be around, what's his name, Laser Eyes dude, when he is figuring out he has to keep his freaking eyes closed not to kill everybody around him.
You don't think it's better for him to learn how to control that in a school with other mutants than just at home or in his regular school?
Oh, no, I'm saying that's great. I just don't want to be there when that happens.
You're part of the problem, Nikki. You are part of the mutant problem of intolerance.
Oh my god.
I'm a mutant activist. I'm surprised you didn't know that about me.
I did not. That is new information.
Now I totally want a shirt that says mutant activist.
Because of all this, at the gym, Peter manages to get invited to Liz's party, which is good because he really likes her, even though they don't seem to have any sort of relationship as far as being friends. I also think she's older than him. Is that right?
She is. She's a senior and he's a sophomore.
That's what I thought. Which is weird that they're in the same PE class. That's odd.
Well, maybe it's a small school since it's a specialized school.
Maybe.
Maybe that's the whole school in one class. Probably not.
I remember being a senior in high school, and as a girl, it would have been really weird for me to date a sophomore.
Yeah.
I feel like boys got away with it more.
Why would any 17-year-old girl want to date a 15-year-old boy?
I think all you have to do is just say, why would anyone want to date a 15-year-old boy?
Well, yeah, usually 17-year-old girls can't even stand to date 17-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Because they're so immature. 15 is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Peter, but I know he's Spider-Man. At this point, she just knows he's a sophomore.
And that he's smart.
Maybe she's just a better person than I am.
I think most of the people in this movie are better people than we are.
That's a fair point.
Also, they're fictional, which makes me feel a lot better.
That is also true.
Peter's at the party, getting stupid Flash with the jokes about Penis Parker, and it's like the lamest joke.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that whole entire situation at all.
Someone like that should never have a microphone.
And also, what kind of person stands around and chants that too?
Yeah, that's really weird. Peer pressure?
I would never do that. Even as a peer. Even in high school, I wouldn't be chanting Penis Parker.
Well, Rosanna, you are a better person than most people. I mean, you're a mutant activist.
That's true.
That counts for something.
Yeah, I'm actually a really good humanitarian in all aspects. And so people shouldn't be held to the same standard as me. I'm just, above it. It's hard for me to understand the struggles of the small-minded.
Oh, yeah? I feel like your head is getting bigger and bigger the more you talk. Are your headphones feeling a little tight? So Peter's at the party, and I feel so bad because he wants to impress Liz, but he doesn't want to have to bring Spider-Man into it, but he feels like he needs to uphold his, not his rep, because he doesn't really seem to have one.
No, he doesn't.
But do something. And he considered, swinging in, and he's trying to talk through a scenario in which this wouldn't make him look ridiculous. And I cannot see anywhere where this wouldn't be awkward, because it's not like he can swing in and say, oh yeah, hi Peter, it's nice to see you again. Peter will not be there when he swings in, because he is Peter.
Right.
I don't think there's any way to make this work well for him.
I was really glad that it didn't.
Well, the reason it doesn't is because he sees this big flash of blue kind of flame light something off in the distance. Over the trees, it seems like there's a big forest in between. And goes to investigate. Leaves the party, leaves poor Ned behind, who was just waiting. I think at this point, Ned doesn't want so much for people to think that Peter knows Spider-Man. He wants people to think that he knows Spider-Man.
Oh, definitely.
And that's what he's going for here. So Peter runs off, runs toward the trees, and I love that he's still learning to use his powers and his web shooter. He shoots it to catch something, but there's nothing in front of him to grab onto, so it just flies off into the distance. And that was weird, too, that her house was so big, it was so noticeable when you first saw it. Which, obviously, is because her father makes a whole bunch of money doing illegal things. Peter sees this weapon steal going down with the Shocker. That guy was ridiculous. I'm glad he died like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And some other dude, and Donald Glover playing Aaron Davis. He manages to stop it, and everybody runs, he chases after them, and then starts this big chase scene where he's just being dragged around by the car because he's attached to it by his web. And then he does the Ferris Bueller run through the backyards, which is really funny.
Right.
Especially since somebody is showing the movie Ferris Bueller. Really hitting us over the head with this reference here.
Not subtle.
No. At one point, one of the cores falls out, and the people get away, and he finds the core, this blue glowing power core, and this is what starts a lot of their trouble. He gets grabbed by the Vulture. This isn't the first time we see the Vulture, is it?
You mean dressed as the Vulture? It might be.
Yeah. He gets grabbed by the Vulture and dropped from a really high altitude, and it messes up his parachute. And he falls in the water, and he's all tangled up in the fabric, and he can't get out, and he's drowning. And then, lo and behold, here comes Iron Man to save him.
Thank goodness.
But it's not really Iron Man, which, I mean, technically that was Tony Stark's fault. If he hadn't have had that parachute, he would have just landed in the water like he did anyway, but he would have been able to swim out. It's not really Tony Stark, it's actually, like, automated Iron Man. Auto Iron Man? I don't know what to call him. Because he shows up a couple times. But it's just Tony talking through it from a wedding, it looks like in India, that he's at. Very disparate, that they're just going back and forth, very bright and very dark.
Yeah.
Back and forth from the two different places. Tony yells at him through his Auto Iron Man for a while, about how he's getting in over his head, taking on too much. It's obvious he has a tracker in his suit, and that's how Tony found him. In this part, and in a couple other parts in the movie, Tony starts to give Peter this really fatherly advice, but he also is hinting at daddy issues that he has.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's what my father would say, and I can't believe I am acting like my father, and all these things. Which reminded me of the scene in Captain America Civil War when he was looking back in time when he was doing that presentation.
Yeah.
And it was him when he was young talking to his father from Mad Men.
Yeah.
About how he didn't want to do certain things.
Yeah, that was sad.
I read that in the original script, Nick Fury was actually supposed to fulfill the mentor role in this movie.
For Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like that in the comics, I guess. I haven't read them, but this is what the article said. I also read that the next Spider-Man movie is going to have another Marvel character in a prominent role. So maybe that will be Nick Fury. Maybe not. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who turns up. Because we really only got two Avengers in this movie.
Well, 3 if you count Spider-Man.
He's not actually an Avenger yet. And he wasn't by the end of the movie either.
He's a Junior Avenger. He's on the Avenger JV team.
I like it. He didn't even get to interact with Captain America. Those were just PSAs, which I loved.
Yeah.
Oh my god, those were amazing. That's right, they had the one in the gym class about fitness.
And the coach goes, I'm pretty sure he's a war criminal, but the state says I have to show it.
That's right. Which tells you a lot about school funding in the U.S.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Nobody can afford to replace the old, out-of-date
even if it's so
videos that get made. But what he says is still good.
It's true.
There's the one about being in trouble in detention, and I love that it finishes and it continues to the next PSA, which is about your changing body in puberty.
So great.
That was so great.
And I know a thing about that.
I bet Chris Evans had such a good time filming those.
Oh, definitely.
I guess that he filmed a whole bunch of them, And they only included, 4 in the movie? 3 or 4?
Alright, so when do we get to see the rest of them?
I really hope they're in the Blu-ray, in the bonus features.
That would be amazing.
But yeah, John Watts said that they filmed a bunch, so I hope we get to see just a roll of them, because they were so much fun.
Yes.
The Shocker and the other dude, whose name is Herman Schultz. That is not a memorable name at all.
The guy that becomes the new Shocker.
Yeah.
Shocker 2.0.
The same arm. Yeah, Toombs accidentally kills old Shocker, Shocker 1.0. Just disintegrates him, which tells us a lot about the weapons.
Yeah.
And how powerful they are.
Also that they should be labeled.
They really should be. That seems like a smart plan. Parker and Ned start studying this power core that they have gotten back, and Peter pulls the tracker out of his suit, and he gets Ned to unlock the training wheels barrier code to let him have access to everything that his suit can do.
Yeah.
Which is invaluable because it saves his life a lot, but it also really messes up some stuff.
Well, and I think if I were a teenage boy or young adult male watching this, I would have been like, yeah, you do that and take it out and don't have training wheels. But as a mother, I felt very uncomfortable that he took off the training wheels program. Very uncomfortable. I was like, this is not going to be good.
Well, and, we find out later that there was obviously an end point to this, because he should have learned all the things that his suit could do.
Right.
Because Karen was surprised that he didn't remember some of the things from the training protocol.
Right. Which I think the issue here is not that there was a training wheels program, is that Tony didn't tell him what the plan was. I'm giving you the suit stuff. You'll be able to do that once you've passed these things. He just didn't communicate enough information. Yeah. I think Peter would have been a lot more patient with it if he had.
I agree. So we meet Karen.
Jennifer Connelly.
Yep, it was Jennifer Connelly.
Yep, I caught that.
I love that Marvel's keeping it all in the family because she's married to Paul Bettany, who did the voice of Jarvis and is now Vision.
And who's Vision, yeah. That's funny.
She tells him all these different web types he has, and some of them are really great, but he just keeps choosing the wrong one for what he needs to do. Finally lets her choose, and it's the wrong one. So Peter is trying to stop Toombs from stealing the weapons from the Department of Damage Control. Is that what it's called? Damage Control?
That's right.
Yeah, DODC truck. He gets in with these pink cubes he puts in a square, and then he can pass through matter, which is crazy.
Super cool. Many real-world applications.
Yeah, I feel like that was just kind of glossed over.
It's a pretty big deal, yeah.
Imagine you could do surgery without ever cutting into somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that
would be awesome.
This is technology that should have been being used for good and not evil.
Yeah.
With great technology comes great responsibility.
Peter gets overpowered and trapped inside the truck, though at least I think he stops Toombs from even stealing anything at all.
I think so too.
But he's gonna miss the decathlon tournament. He completely misses it. Here's one thing I liked about the way this movie was written. Everybody, most of the people really liked Peter, and he was needed, but they got by without him. Even though he wasn't there, they still won.
Yeah.
It wasn't everything is dependent upon him all the time, and I was glad about that. He finds out that the power core is actually a bomb and activated by radiation, which we learn about right as Ned is going through a metal detector and the power core in his backpack goes through an X-ray machine, which has radiation. Yay! So now, all of Peter's friends from the academic decathlon, except for Melissa, or MJ, or Michelle? Is it Michelle? I don't know. It's not Mary. Whatever her name is.
I think Michelle.
I don't know what the J part is. Michelle, Janelle?
Yep,
I don't know why
I think that's what it
made
is.
that rhyme.
Michelle Janelle. Good old Michelle Janelle.
Luckily, she's not in the elevator, so she can tell Spider-Man that all his friends, or Peter Parker's friends, are up in the elevator. And they get to the top of the Washington Monument, everybody in the elevator, and it explodes. And the elevator starts falling, and Peter has to get inside, and he's crawling up and basically running up the side of the Washington Monument, which is scary because it's so high. So high. And he's getting so tired because it's just so far to go and he can't go any faster. And he can't get in the window, and he then does just, I think, probably the best stunt in the whole movie.
Yeah.
He uses his knowledge of physics to swing a giant web and leap over the helicopter and swing around and break through the window with all the force that he has gathered.
That looks really cool and really scary.
Yeah. I don't like heights to begin with, but oh my god, no.
Oh, terrible.
No. And if he had fallen, it'd be so hard for him to save himself because there's nothing else tall around. It's just the Washington Monument.
Yeah, I don't know what he would have done.
Yeah, it was a nice scene of him overcoming his fear to save everybody. So he saves everyone. They get back to New York. He's in trouble. And then he really wants to stop Toombs, but he doesn't know how to find him. So he goes and finds Aaron Davis again in a parking garage. And there was this little side comment where Aaron said that his nephew lives in the neighborhood. He doesn't want him, exposed to these horrible weapons. It turns out his nephew, Aaron Davis, is in the comics. And Aaron Davis' nephew is Miles Morales, who grows up to get bitten by a radioactive spider and becomes, I think he maybe even replaces Peter Parker at some point to become a Spider-Man.
How many radioactive spiders are there?
I don't know. It's at Stark Industries that he gets bitten.
Huh.
It's crazy, but I think it's years in the future. But that makes me think that maybe, because they mentioned him, maybe he'll have his own movie in the future. Maybe he's in the timeline.
I wonder if that's part of the reason they didn't do the origin story of Spider-Man, because maybe they're going to use it in a later movie with the next one. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Or maybe the radioactive spider is just Peter. Maybe he just goes around biting people and making new Spider-Man.
Yeah, maybe.
No?
Maybe he hits his head really hard and thinks he's actually a spider. And then starts biting people.
That would be weird. I mean, there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, really. Like mirrors.
You can't be logical with people that have head injuries. Logic doesn't work on them. I should know. I've had a concussion.
I've had enough concussions to know that's true.
You're not supposed to have more than 2 in your life. It's really dangerous.
I think I've had 3.
You think you've had 3? Well, that's a pretty good sign you've had more than 2.
I definitely remember 2 of them.
Oh my god.
Now, one, I was doing this dance move so epic that I fell over and I pulled my dance partner with me and he grabbed my arm so I wouldn't hit my head, but I hit my head anyway and I couldn't protect myself because he had me by the arms. That was pretty bad.
I'm such a good dancer, I concussed myself.
It was amazing. And then once I fell out of a moving truck. Like, the truck itself wasn't moving. It was a moving truck that I fell out of when it was parked, and I hit my head.
That's how I got my concussion also. I fell out of a stationary truck and hit my head on the parking lot concrete.
Do you think we might have some genetic issues here?
I don't know, but my husband was like, you have to wear a helmet everywhere you go from now on. I was like, it was one time. It was horrible, though. It's so painful. Oh my god, the headache.
Yeah.
It was 2 weeks of a headache.
Yeah, listeners, don't ever get a concussion. It sucks.
Yeah.
And then they don't let you play football. I mean, they might not have let you play football even before the concussion, but still.
Well, it depends on the coach. They shouldn't let you play football.
I imagine Peter has had a lot of concussions, and I hope that his spider skull heals well from them. Spider brain.
Spider brain.
So Peter finds out that another deal is going to go down on the Staten Island ferry. Does he even call anyone to tell them about this?
No.
No, he doesn't. He called before and told them about the weapons.
He got brushed off so many times he gave up.
And he doesn't have a tracker anymore either, since he took it out. I'm willing to bet, though, that there is another tracker in that suit.
Well, that would be smart.
The redundancy is always good.
But he ends up finding him, so how does he find him?
Well, news wouldn't have had coverage yet. Oh, because he sent the FBI, so he probably has an in on what's happening.
Of course.
That's probably how he found out.
Yep.
As soon as he hears from somebody there that's like, there's Spider-Man here, too. We didn't expect that.
Yes.
He probably heads out to get there. Which is good, because Peter completely messes this whole thing up. He goes to stop the deal, And did you notice who was working on the deal with Toombs and the other guys? Did he look familiar to you?
Who was it? I don't know.
It was Vic from Orphan Black.
Oh, that's where I've seen him before. I knew
Yeah.
he looked familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. I figured he was just a bad guy on something else. Yes, that's exactly who it is.
He is a bad guy on something else.
That's
He's also
true.
missing some fingers on that.
Yes, he is.
He had all his fingers in this movie.
Oh, the miracles of modern medicine.
He can just grow back fingers. It's great.
Well, on Orphan Black, I wouldn't put it past him.
That's true. I feel like from Orphan Black, his character there has had a lot of concussions.
Oh, yeah.
That guy has some problems.
Yeah.
Peter's trying to stop it. The FBI shows up, and Toombs gets away, and Peter keeps trying to stop him. He ends up getting the weird advanced gun away from him, and then it just starts shooting off everywhere. And I'm not sure if it was the gun that was malfunctioning, or if it was the way the webbing was wrapped around it that was causing all the shooting to happen. Either way, it cuts the ship in half, which also, does that not seem like overkill for a gun deal?
Yeah.
Like, do you really need a weapon that powerful? I don't feel like that's necessary.
They're just using their toys, I guess.
And it's not like it's subtle, because they don't hide the fact that it has this glowing blue orb inside of it that is on display. Peter thinks very quickly, has Karen identify all the strongest points so he can get his web around them and try to hold the ship together. And then we just end up in this, oh god, it looks so painful, this Jesus pose where he is stretched across the sides of the ship, just holding it together with his strength. And it's like he's on a medieval rack. I feel like he's just gonna lose a limb at some point. I don't know what he thought he was gonna do.
I think he just panicked and he didn't want people to be hurt.
Hold on until something happens.
Right.
And he couldn't let go, because then he would definitely sink. Yeah, that's a tough one. Luckily, Iron Man shows up. Real Iron Man this time, not Auto Iron Man. And welds the ship back together. Which doesn't seem very likely to me that would work. But okay, I will willingly suspend my disbelief. Because I'm pretty sure that ship picked up a lot of water in places it should not have water
That's probably true.
when this was happening. It's a lot heavier than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at least they got all the people off, I'm sure, because they had all the rescue boats around before they had to.
Yeah, that's another insurance claim somebody's going to be complaining about.
So Stark yells at him for a while and says he's been reckless. He takes away his suit. Says, if you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Yep.
And I'm really happy that Peter didn't have anything to change into, so he just got to wear this souvenir shirt home. He gets back, and I really did like the moment between Peter and Aunt May when he got back, because she was so mad that he had just been missing, and then he broke down about losing the internship, and it was a very sweet moment.
It was. It's nice that he has somebody, even if he doesn't have his parents.
Yeah. So he goes back to school, goes back to his regular life, doesn't do the Stark internship anymore. He has a little moment with Liz where she admits that she knows he likes him because he's been staring at her for God knows how long everywhere she goes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure everybody knows he has a crush on her. And so he takes advantage of the moment and asks her to homecoming, which I'm assuming is where we get the name of the movie, Homecoming.
I believe that's true.
Unless they're just talking about the homecoming of him when he turns down becoming an Avenger yet and goes home. I don't know. There's not an obvious spot for that title to come from.
Maybe it's a combination of things.
Maybe. The word homecoming, I feel like, is more of a second movie title. Just like someone's gone somewhere and done something and then they come back. It's a weird one for the first one. One thing I really did like about this movie is that the romance isn't the main plot, which it seems to be in all the other Spider-Man movies, and a whole bunch of superhero movies seem to use romance as the main thing, or at least on equal level with whatever big bad is in the movie. This was not. I mean, it was, an interesting point they brought up several times, but it was not a huge deal for everything else. It didn't affect everything else in the movie. It's also good because he's only 15 years old at this point, so I don't think that romance needs to be the biggest deal in his life, especially when he's a superhero. He's got a lot going on already. And this is the big reveal, the big twist. Peter goes to pick up Liz for homecoming, walks to her front door, And as soon as he went to ring the doorbell, I was like, oh no. And that's when I realized what was going to happen. And then, lo and behold, door opens up and there's Adrian Toomes. It's Liz's dad, which none of us expected because he's white. And it was a surprise. Were you just completely surprised by this?
Yeah, I was.
When did you figure it out?
When he went to the door.
And he's so uncomfortable the whole time out of the house, and he can't even tell Liz she looks nice, and he's not even looking at her, just staring at the dad. And picking up all the clues he can, like he's going out of town tonight. What does that mean? And all this. And it does not take very long of being in the car for Toomes to figure out who Peter is, that he is really Spider-Man, which really speaks to his level of intelligence. I mean, we certainly, saw things that made it obvious from answers Peter had, but just a regular person may not have put that together if they didn't know everything that we know.
I found it hard to believe that even with this conversation with his daughter, that he would have decided, oh, of course, Spider-Man and this 15-year-old boy are the same.
Yeah.
Who would ever think, just seeing Spider-Man, that he could ever be a teenage boy?
Well, I mean, he recognized the voice. And for me, I think that was the biggest thing, because he already sounded familiar, he just couldn't place his voice. But once he had, I think, just the inkling, then all the puzzle pieces fit together.
I think that that's what the idea was. Yeah, but I still think it's a stretch.
Yeah, the fact that he went all in with that idea, pulled out the gun and everything.
Yeah, because everybody knows that Spider-Man worked with the Avengers, and if you see all the Avengers lined up, they're all adults. It just seems logical that Spider-Man would also be an adult. I think most people wouldn't even consider a teenager in this.
That's true. Though, as we were watching, or as I was watching the movie, I kept thinking, it's helpful that his voice is a little bit higher because he's playing a 15-year-old boy, but what are they going to do when he gets older? And then I listened to an interview with Tom Holland. His voice is not as high as it is in the movie.
Oh.
That's completely put on.
Because he's supposed to be 15.
Also the American accent because he's English. I think that's a great move on his part to make him sound really up all the time, like a younger person would.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that that's not his normal voice.
Me too.
So now he's going to be able to grow with the character because his voice won't be the same.
Yeah, he did a really good job. Really good job with this character.
Poor Peter has to give up his dream date with Liz to go get her father, who is a serious criminal with really dangerous weapons. He realizes that Toomes is going to take advantage of moving day that we've heard about from Happy, where everything is getting moved out of the Stark Tower. Because they're selling it, I guess. Is that what they said? They were going to sell the tower?
Yeah, maybe. I think so.
If nothing else, they were completely moving out of it. They had one little teeny portion of a scene where Happy was naming some things on an inventory list, like Thor's magic belt and a new prototype for Captain America's shield. And I think he said something else. Apparently that list was really long, and they cut it all because they just it dragged out the scene too much. But I really hope we get that full list in the Blu-ray release.
Definitely.
Because John Watts is all about Easter eggs. And so I'm sure there were a ton of really great things in there. Which, of course, makes me wonder if Black Widow has a suit that does a lot more stuff than just being a tight leather cat suit.
Yeah, I don't know if she trusts Tony enough to make her a suit.
That's a really good point.
She's not his biggest fan.
No.
So she might say, nope, I'm just going to use what I already know. I don't need your toys.
Peter does not have a suit anymore, so he goes down in the hallway, pulls up the lockers where he keeps his hidden Spider-Man stuff, and gets his old suit, which looks ridiculous.
Yep. Looks like pajamas.
It really does. It's just sweats, basically, that are a certain color. And he has a little fight outside with the Shocker, which is a terrible name considering Yeah. Listeners, I'm not even going to explain, but if you want to know what we're talking about and you don't, just go to Urban Dictionary and look up the Shocker, and you'll find out why I really don't need anyone to be called this anywhere.
Or don't look it up and continue to live in your peaceful naivety. What's the word? Naivety?
Naivety. Mom, if you're listening, do not go to Urban Dictionary.
Oh my God, don't.
Look this up. Don't do it.
Nobody really needs to know.
So he ends up getting beaten pretty badly by I'm gonna call him Shock Fist now, just to make myself feel better.
That makes you feel better?
You shush. I do what I have to do, okay?
Okay.
But he gets saved by Ned, who finds his web shooters and saves him, and it's so sweet. And it's also really funny later when Ned just keeps talking about it, how he got to use it and saved the day, because he has no idea all the things that Peter has gone through that he didn't have to deal with.
Right. Of course not.
And Peter isn't going to tell anyone because he is a really good guy and does not want to make things all about him. And I really hope that Tony Stark watches the footage somewhere, because everything is on being recorded everywhere.
Yeah.
So he can see what Peter went through. Peter goes to this lair. He drives a car to the lair. Drives is a nice way to say what he actually does to that car. But he gets to the lair, and Toomes has this fancier version of his suit that can fly on its own, and it breaks down the support beams. And basically a building falls on Peter. And it's terrible. It is so heart-wrenching when they finally show him alive, thank goodness, and just crushed under all this weight, and he has to get out, and he's just crying, and oh my god, it made me very sad. And he's trying so hard.
Yeah, it was really, really sad.
And he finally manages to talk himself up enough. He remembers what Tony said about, if you can't be what you are without the suit, then you're not that person. Something to that effect.
Then you don't deserve the suit.
Right. Thank you. And he manages to get out from under all the rubble. He sees the Vulture, and he manages to get him with his web shooter, but stay flying behind the Vulture where he can't see him.
Because he says, I'm feeling a little drag.
It's great. But luckily he stays out of... Vulture never looks back to see what it is. And he gets up to the plane. And they use this high-altitude vacuum seal and the little pink cubes again to get inside the plane. And Peter's just on the outside of a plane that is thousands of feet in the air. And there's not much to grab onto. And it's going... all the wind. He can't even shoot his web very well because there's so much wind. It's crazy. It is very, very insane what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have a parachute anymore, so if he falls, he's screwed. Because he hasn't replaced... Well, now that he hasn't even replaced the parachute on his suit, he doesn't even have the suit that had the parachute, or even the webby flying squirrel thing going on that he was doing.
Right, the wings.
Yeah. He manages to stop. I was trying to figure out... I wasn't sure if Toomes' plan was to just hijack the whole plane and have it land somewhere and take everything, or just get what he could and then fly away with it without anyone being the wiser.
To me, it seemed like he was trying to just take the plane.
That seems like the smartest thing to do.
And unload it somewhere else.
Okay. Was he just going to reprogram it to land?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The other guy was going to do it. His guy in a chair, that's right, because he had Ned, it was this guy in a chair, too. They all have a guy in a chair. Till Ned got caught and said he was just looking at porn in the library. That's all.
There could have been other things he could have said at that point.
Really could have been. I feel like he's one of those kids that's not good in a panicky situation.
No, probably not.
So really not someone that you'd want to be Spider-Man. Not at all.
And kind of not the man in the chair if you can't handle it.
Yeah.
You gotta work on that. Not that Peter had a lot of options at that point.
That is true.
It's not like he had time for interviews for the man in the chair.
Also, that kid can do a lot of stuff. He's just hacking into things to find out where people are, and that seemed odd. He had access to too much information.
Probably not totally accurate. Yeah, I don't think so.
Deus Ex Machina kind of thing going on there.
Yep.
Peter manages to stop the plane from crashing into Coney Island and just gets it to land gently on the beach. Not gently at all. Skids down the beach for half a mile. And he and the Vulture are fighting, and then the Vulture suit gets all crazy. And because everything is going to explode, Peter tries to save him. I think it shows his innate goodness. Because after all the stuff that this guy has put him through, he is still trying to make sure nobody dies. So, he warns him about not going over there because everything's going to explode. And then when he does go over there anyway, Peter goes in and pulls his body out of the wreckage. I mean, of course, he still ties him up for the police.
Sure.
But at least he got him out safely. So after Adrian Toomes gets arrested, Liz has to move away to Oregon, of all places. Come to Oregon, it's lovely here.
Yeah, she had kind of a rough week there, finding out about her dad after she got left alone at the dance.
Yeah.
She's probably going to need to see a therapist for a little while just to work through some of those abandonment issues.
I'm a little surprised that she didn't just have an inkling or wonder about Peter as well. Because, I mean, all that timing's pretty suspicious. And apparently Peter knows Spider-Man, so...
I think it's just the fact that nobody would ever think that Spider-Man is a teenage boy.
I guess that's true. All right.
It's just not reasonable.
It isn't.
It probably never even occurred to her that somebody she knows from school could be the Spider-Man.
See, I think about stuff like that all the time. I always wonder
if your friends are Spider-Man.
Who around me has a secret life.
Yeah.
Everybody has secrets. I don't know if you're really, like, from Asgard.
She even tells him, Peter, you're terrible at keeping secrets. And he's like, you'd be surprised.
That's true. So everything's better.
Ish.
Peter and Tony make up, and Peter gets to go upstate to see the new Avengers location, the new facility. Gets offered a new suit and a membership to the Avengers Club.
The varsity team.
We've got an opening. And he says no to all of this. Were you surprised that he turned it down?
Yeah. He spent the whole beginning of the movie trying to be a real Avenger, and Tony gives him the chance, and he has changed his mind.
Well, Tony was also surprised. But I mean, the whole movie, I think, was his journey to realizing what his limits are and what he's ready for and not ready for yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he turned it down, but I was surprised.
And I'm sure he really would like to go to a school dance with somebody and be able to actually dance
and stay at the dance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's never going to happen for him.
Apparently there were kissing scenes filmed that didn't make it into the movie.
What?
Yeah.
That's weird. I'm glad they didn't. That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, the girl that played Liz said they filmed several of them, but none of them made it.
At what point would they have kissed?
I think at the dance. Maybe they let them have one dance or something. And maybe in the elevator after he saved her and someone was saying, like, just kiss her.
Yeah, that was Karen.
I did love the moment where Pepper Potts comes out and she's like, what are we going to tell all these
Where's the
reporters? Kid? And then Happy pulls out a ring. He's apparently been carrying around this engagement ring for years.
Yeah.
For Pepper. From Tony.
For like 9 years.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's just like, whatever, dude. They go inside, and I'd love to hear what they ended up telling them, but...
Yeah. She decided she'd think of something.
We don't get that. So Stark gives the old suit back to Peter, who takes it home and puts it on. And then Aunt May walks in and says, what the f... And then the movie cuts to black.
Yep.
So I'm sure in the next movie, Aunt May is going to know about Spider-Man.
Or she'll have had a concussion.
Also true. She's going to be really happy that he turned down that Avengers spot for now.
Oh, definitely. I mean, she was worried about him when she didn't know he was Spider-Man.
That's true. I wonder if that would cause less worry or more.
More.
I mean, definitely more because, she knows that he's out. But at least she knows what's going on. And she knows that he is a lot stronger and close to invincible. Is he immortal now? What's the deal?
No, why would you think he's immortal?
Not that he can't get killed, but... Will he just live forever? Or does he... Because his body repairs itself so quickly.
But that doesn't mean he's going to live forever.
I don't know. I mean, what about Captain America? What's his deal?
Well, he got pumped full of all kinds of weird stuff.
Well, so did Peter.
He's not going to live forever. He just was suspended for a while. It's not like he lived through that whole time. He didn't age during that time. So he's the same age when he woke up as he was when he went to sleep.
Is Captain America going to age?
Okay, I haven't read the comics, so I don't know, but I would think yes.
Okay.
But maybe at a slower rate.
Maybe.
And even though Spider-Man can heal quickly, that doesn't mean that'll always be the case. I don't heal as quickly as I did 15 years ago. Maybe it's just a slower decline of health.
Well, this has gotten depressing.
Well, we're all mortal except, I guess, Thor.
Yeah.
So...
We get a couple of credit scenes, one in mid-credits, where we see Vic from Orphan Black again. It was Gargan, I think is his name. he goes up to Toombs and is trying to figure out where Spider-Man is, says that there are rumors that Toombs knows who it is. And he plays it off, I'm assuming because Spider-Man saved his life and he doesn't want to give him up at this point.
I think that's why.
And then we get the final post-credit scene, which is Captain America breaking the fourth wall, doing his final PSA about patience. Which was really fun because I waited so long. So many people left the theater after the first credit scene. And I was like, there's got to be another one.
Yeah, a bunch of people did that at my theater too. They left. And I was like, have you guys never been to one of these?
Yeah, I'm like, there's going to be something at the very end. There always is.
Yeah.
So that was the movie, which was awesome.
It was really good.
There were a few little things that I found out that were funny. There was a deleted scene. They haven't shown it, so I'm assuming it'll be in the Blu-ray release. But it was with Marissa Tomei, where she's at a protest against Stark Industries. Apparently, she and Tony, meet eyes at this point, and she is not happy, which might explain why she doesn't like Tony.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out, is Spider-Man, the same strength level as Captain America? I wonder about that.
I almost think he's stronger.
Okay.
Because didn't he get his shield away from him?
I think he caught it. I'm not sure if he, wrestled it. I don't think he wrestled it away.
I'm not sure. I'd like to see a chart
Yeah,
of all the Avengers and their strength levels.
Hulk is at the top.
Well,
He's basically invincible.
but also Thor kind of is too.
Yeah. They seemed pretty evenly matched in the strength department in Avengers.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Again, I think that's maybe a thing that we just don't know because we haven't read the comics, or maybe there's a place on the internet where that's been plotted out and we just haven't seen it.
I bet somebody's done that.
Or maybe it's never specifically been said. I don't know. I'm sure somebody has gone through and analyzed everything they've ever done and can tell us where their strength level is in comparison to each other. I haven't seen that, though. Somebody post the infographic of that, please.
I feel like if any of the comic books would tell us, it would be Deadpool, who has probably done these calculations.
Probably.
Because he wanted to know.
That sounds like something he would do, for sure.
It really does. Also, and it may be different answers for either one, even though we don't know the answer to either one. But I wonder if Spider-Man and Captain America can increase their strength by working out. Because sometimes we see Captain America working out. There was one time when he was working on punching bags, and I don't know if he was just letting off steam or if he was actually exercising for strength.
I don't know that he necessarily exercises to get stronger, but maybe to remain strong, to keep his fitness level where it is.
I just wonder if it's possible for him to get out of shape.
I don't think he could.
I want to see Captain America with a little pot belly and...
No, nobody wants to see that.
5 o'clock shadow and...
Well, maybe that.
He's always clean shaven, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's so adorable.
Chris Evans looks good with some scruff.
He looks great with the beard, too.
He's a very handsome man.
He is a very handsome man. He's the perfect choice for Captain America. He really, really is.
I agree. Oh, one other thing I saw that I thought was funny. They won't let Tom Holland see the script for Avengers Infinity War because he can't keep a secret.
Oh, that's adorable. Oh my gosh.
It's very cute.
He's so cute. He is so cute.
I think he was the perfect casting for this.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Rosanna, it is time for your top and bottom 3. Listeners, usually we just do a top 3, but Rosanna went crazy on this one and went for 6 total items.
I pulled 6 out of the movie.
What are they?
So I'm going to start with the bottom 3. These are things that I didn't love. It was fine, but I didn't love them.
All right.
Number 1, Adrian Toombs, aka the Vulture. His sort of origin story, it was fine. It was a little blah. I didn't like that his motivations seemed to be completely monetary. I know a little bit of it was get back at the man, but it was pretty much just all about the money. And I always want there to be more than that.
Before we found out that he was Liz's dad, and he kept talking about how he has a family to support, I thought the reveal was going to be that he had, a daughter with cancer who needed surgery or something. It was something bigger than just, I need to keep my family in this big, expensive house.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't hurting.
No.
And then on top of that, that it gets to the point where he realizes that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and he's trying to kill him.
Yeah.
He's trying to kill a kid who's the same age as his daughter. Does that seem totally authentic?
Yeah, it seems like he has some sociopathy going on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about money. And I don't like money as a motivation. Revenge, fine, that kind of thing, I can understand. This it didn't sit totally cool with me.
Okay. I think that is reasonable.
Thank you. Number 2, Happy, in quotation marks, had a bad attitude this movie.
Yeah.
I liked him in the other movies, the little parts that he had. He had cute little quips and things, but he was very dismissive of Peter, and I don't like that. When you're supposed to be, I guess he's supposed to be his handler, but I don't think he was very sensitive to what Peter was trying to work through. He was just snotty to him. I mean, he was rude most of the time. Like, Peter says, "Where's the new building?" And Happy says, "It's in a place where I hope it has worse cell coverage," or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just rude. He was really rude. To a kid that, God, how can you not see he's just trying his best? He's just trying to be a good person. Why are you just dumping on him? So, not my favorite.
I feel like Happy was a little overworked.
I suppose that could be it. Yeah, I don't know.
Still, not nice.
Yeah, not nice. And then the third one is very superficial. I love Marissa Tomei. I'm just going to start with that right now. I think she's
My Cousin Vinny.
awesome. Yes, loved her in My Cousin Vinny. She's great. I'm not sure why they dressed her like it was 1976 the entire movie.
Yeah, that was really strange.
Like the giant round glasses, the super high-waisted pants.
the turtlenecks.
What?
Ugh.
Why? Nobody else was dressed like that.
No, they weren't.
And I don't know if we're trying to say, like, oh, she's stuck in the 70s. Or maybe, like, we're referencing how her character actually was in her 70s in the first movies. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with that. It was too much. I do not like the costume design in her department. Right? It was weird, right?
Yeah. You saying the whole thing about it being 70s reminded me of one other little Easter egg.
Oh.
That was in the movie. So I think it's the principal. Peter's in his office and they kind of scan away at one point, and there's this photo of some relative of his in a military uniform. And I noticed that in the movie because I'm like, that's kind of weird. It's like turned outward so everyone can see it, and it just seemed very prominent. And then later when I was reading about Easter eggs, apparently that same actor played a guy in a Captain America movie. So he played his own grandfather. And so it's the same guy in the picture that is the guy is the principal.
That's funny.
From a different movie. So he played his own grandfather, which I thought was hilarious.
That's funny.
Yeah, I liked that. So what were your top three?
Okay, so my top three were scenes that were full of information, but they were also a lot of fun.
Ah, okay.
First of all, the movie opening, the film by Peter Parker, this whole cell phone video chronicling the trip to Germany in Captain America Civil War. Seeing it from Peter's perspective was so great.
Yeah.
It gave us information about the behind the scenes of this fight that we didn't see in that movie. So it gave us this great information, but then also it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Just to hear what kind of actual reactions you would get from a 15-year-old boy who's thrown into this with these powers, and he's fighting everybody else with these powers, and he's working with people, and he's just saying these things that are just insanely comical. I mean, just the stuff that he says is so funny. So I really loved that.
Just that they let him be so excited about his room being so big, and it had more room than he even expected in it, in his hotel and all that. It was really nice.
And then the second scene was the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man montage with the bike robbery and giving directions to the old lady and her buying him a churro and this whole thing. So we're getting information about really what he's actually doing day to day while he's waiting for the big call. And it's not a lot of big heroic stuff, but to the people that he's working for, that he's doing this stuff for, it's a big deal to them. And I really liked it. I thought it was sweet. And of course, he's hilarious in this whole part too. He's just so funny. And then my number three, Okay, I know this was sort of exposition, but it was so funny. All of the news stories from the two kids in the high school.
Yeah.
On the little TV, they were giving like school news. It was so
Oh, man.
awkward and
Yeah, it was
so
great.
funny. So they're giving us information that we need, but it's in a way that like feels real. Like I remember that in high school. Just the super teen awkward.
Back to you, Paul. It was all very, yeah.
It was very stilted, very low budget.
Yeah. The girl in that, I think it was Betty something. She's in the comics too.
Oh,
And so I expect we'll continue to see her in the movies.
that'd be great. I'm sure though, if she's not in front of the camera, she's probably less awkward, which would be sad because the awkward is the funny.
It was really funny.
Yeah, so that's my top 3. I thought this movie was so great because it was so much fun to watch. It was funny and interesting, and it was a good story, and the characters were really great. It just was fun all around.
I'm glad you liked it. Is Tom Holland your favorite Spider-Man?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
hands down.
by far. Yeah, he's great. So much better than Tobey Maguire. I mean, I'm sorry, Tobey Maguire, if you're listening. You did your best. But Tom Holland...
With the material you were given.
Yes, but Tom Holland was just made for this part. This part was made for Tom Holland, I guess.
I agree.
He's just perfect. I can't wait to see him play this character again.
And again and again.
As many times as possible.
With great power comes great responsibility.
You're a really good actor. We're going to make you keep doing it until everyone's sick of you.
Yeah, he's going to be 30 before he's done. Probably older than that.
And he'll look 22.
He will. Because right now he's 20.
Right. No, he's 21.
Okay, fine, 21.
I just think because I'm pretty sure when he was on the Ellen show, he talked about how he had just turned 21 and he bought an apartment.
Oh my god.
That he was excited about. Yeah.
Now I'm jealous of actors.
And his apartment's like a block away from his mom.
Aww.
And he's so happy about it. It's so cute.
That's very cute.
And we should also mention again to listeners, if you guys have not seen the lip sync battle video of Tom Holland doing Rihanna's Umbrella, you need to go watch it right now.
Yes.
It is phenomenal.
It is great. Do you have any predictions about the next Spider-Man movie? Or Spider-Man's appearance in any upcoming Marvel movies?
So he's going to be in Avengers Infinity War. I have no idea what Infinity War is referring to, so pretty hard to make any predictions on that.
So predictions about MJ, are they just going to be friends for a while? I would expect eventually they'll have a romance, considering she's his great love in the comics.
I thought it was a little odd that Zendaya had such a small part in the movie until it got to the end and I realized that's who she was. And then it made sense to me.
Just building it up for the next one.
I really liked her character in this movie. I thought she was really funny.
Yeah.
Really, really funny. Very dry, but
yeah,
she did a really, really nice job. I like that they didn't doll her up. She was just content with what she was. Smart and observant. Good character. I liked her a lot.
I was really happy with the diversity in this movie, which is just about time that movies reflect actual people in life.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's New York City. It's like the most diverse city in the world, probably. So I saw somebody posting somewhere, of course, about the liberal agenda is taking over and making this film more diverse than it should be. What? And the comic fans will all be so angry. And I'm like, come on. This is ridiculous.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah. The trailers they showed before Spider-Man at the theater, one of them was the Black Panther movie. And it was so refreshing to see not just a major motion picture, but a really expensive superhero film where everybody in the main cast is black. And not... the only white people were...
Yeah.
What, Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis?
Yeah.
In Black Panther? I mean, why has it taken this long to get something like this? You know, it's... I was very afraid that they were going to whitewash some of that casting just to make it more palatable for audiences. And I'm so glad they didn't.
I think it started changing because people started demanding it.
Yeah.
It's all driven by money. And if people are saying, I'm not going to watch your movie unless you put my representation in it,
Yeah.
their only motivation is money.
Yeah, I tweeted about the Black Panther thing too, and just, I mean, representation matters. It really does. We recorded about Wonder Woman, and I'm not sure if we said it in that recording, but there was I think a kindergarten teacher that came out with a list of all the things that she saw girls in her class do in just the couple weeks after the movie came out. And it was all these things exposing them to ideas that they could be something they never knew they could be before, and ideas about being stronger and equal to men. And from one movie, representation is so important, and it's so great that people are finally getting some. I mean, that's easy for me to say as a white woman, but
Yeah.
god damn, it's time, you know? I totally embrace some diversity in film and movies and TV. Just let me see what the world actually looks like when I watch something on TV.
Yeah, don't tell me what it looks like. Don't tell me what I'm supposed to see.
Mm-hmm.
Show me what it actually is.
Yeah.
Also, it's just more interesting.
It is.
Nobody wants to watch anything with a bunch of cookie cutter people. You know, 4 white women with blonde hair and 4 white men with light brown hair and polos and khakis. And I mean, that's boring.
Like all the Chris's. We don't need any more. We don't need any more Chris's. That is enough. We're at our max capacity.
Don't take them away. But also add others.
But no more.
Yes.
Yes, add some different people there. That would be nice. Yeah, I was thinking, like, if Friends came out today, people would be like, everybody is completely boring.
White,
They're
yeah.
all the same.
And it's
Yeah.
not even just to have people of color and of different nationalities and women as strong characters, all this kind of stuff. Give us their cultural effect on their lives. Show us what it's like to be from different places.
Yeah.
Because I can't be in all those places. I can't go to all those places. Show me what it's like there. Show me what people from there are like. This world has gotten so much smaller in the last 25 years with the way technology is. I should know what it's like in every country in this world. It should be really easy to see that.
I agree. Listeners, you had no idea we were going to get into a diversity talk at the end of this episode, did you?
We should keep talking about it.
And again, the whole, being white, it's so easy, but I feel like if we're not going to be, I guess, allies too, then what are we doing? If we're just gonna ignore that there is a race problem in the United States, if we are gonna ignore the representation problem, then how is it ever gonna get better?
And also, on top of everything, it's just a generational thing.
That's true.
It's going to continue to get better as new generations are born and continue to say, why are we making this a big deal? Why is this a thing?
Yeah.
Why do we still have to talk about it?
And as the people who are, I hate the excuse that they're too old, they're never going to change, because I have met old people who do not hold these horrible bigoted views, but I have also met people who do, and I will be okay when they die off. I'm just being honest here.
Yeah. It is. It's a big part of it is generational.
Though, there are plenty of people in our generation that hold very unpleasant views.
But that will always be the case in every generation.
Yeah.
But I think that percentage is much smaller as we move forward.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah, my kids are like, are you black? Okay. Are you gay? Okay, whatever. Let's move on. That is not the most important thing about you. That's not what I'm concerned about. Let's talk about what kind of person you are. That's not the biggest thing.
I think that may be one of the best things about Spider-Man Homecoming, actually, is that there was all this diversity, and at no point was it brought to the forefront. It was never mentioned.
It was never a plot point. Yeah.
Exactly. It was just how it is. And I think that is the perfect way to treat inclusion.
Yeah.
It's just natural. I mean, it's just the world. Yeah, that was a really, really great way to do it. It wasn't a big deal because it isn't.
And I think that we have to keep talking about it until we don't have to talk about it anymore. I mean,
agree.
We shouldn't have to talk about it, but we're going to have to keep talking about it until we get to the point where we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's a big discussion. It's going to take time, a lot of time.
for myself, it's taken me a long time to get even comfortable talking about it, talking about, race in general, because I am in a population that's not very affected, or really not affected at all, by that issue.
Right.
And I'm always very nervous about saying something and being insensitive and not realizing it, or not recognizing my privilege in all these discussions.
I think that where I'm at is that I don't think it should matter, and I don't want it to matter, but I have to be sensitive to the fact that to a lot of people it does. And that's something that we all need to address, whether we've come from a place where we don't get, profiled or judged based on that. It's not a big deal to us because we're not racist or prejudiced, but we still have to acknowledge that the people in those groups are dealing with it. Whether we think they should have to or not, they are dealing with it. Yeah.
Yeah, every day.
We just have to pay attention.
Until it doesn't matter to anyone, it should matter to everyone.
Definitely.
Is my feeling. On that note, let's wrap up.
All right.
And listeners, if you want to have this conversation, you should have it with everybody that you know. Because we all should be talking about how to make this feel as natural as it did in Spider-Man.
And go see Spider-Man, because it was super good. Of course, if you listen to this, it's probably way spoiled for you.
It's still totally worth it because there are a lot of jokes that are fantastic.
Definitely still worth it. I would definitely watch it again.
I'm definitely going to go see it again.
All right, cheekies. Please visit our website, somethingcheekypodcast.com, where you can suggest movies for us to cover. You can send us questions and feedback, and you can find out ways to support the show.
That's our episode. Please leave us a review on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at SomeCheek, Facebook.com/SomeCheek, and Instagram at SomethingCheekyPodcast. If you want to listen to our other podcasts about popular books, TV shows, and other movies, just search for Something Cheeky in your favorite podcasting app. You can also find them all on our website. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Dig-a-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.